welcome to Slice TV for our first episode, and I'm here with CEO of Captivate on Hold, Mark Horwood, who's going to tell us all about what Captivate on Hold is.
Okay, well, thanks, Courtney. Basically, Captivate on Hold is a company that we set up back in 1994 to try to change the music on hold industry. Effectively, it was those days pretty early, but it had captured the market quite well as an industry, but everybody was doing the same thing. And we sort of felt that maybe we could do it a little bit better. I suppose everybody starting out in business believes that you can do things better than they were, otherwise you wouldn't be in business in the first place. During that time, we sort of were selling on-hold messages to various clients. The majority of the users in those days were car sales type people, sort of highly motivated things. So we took the other end of the market and we went predominantly with the doctors and the legal professionals because there was still a need. They still had a lot of people on hold during that period. And so we focused more with that professional end. Then after a few years, we sort of did some market research into on-hold businesses. And we found that the public perceived them as being a little bit boring, a little bit repetitive, and they very seldom ever changed. And so we developed some new technology in the very early 2000s, which allowed us then to enthuse and entertain more, rather than that traditional "we're the greatest thing since sliced bread," da 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 da, elevator music. We changed that and we put in things like news headlines, sport, weather, interesting little magazine type articles, snippets in between, just replacing that elevator music that people didn't like very much at all. And that went particularly well. And so during the 2000 to 2010 type era, that was our core market, and that developed quite well, and we expanded with a few clients globally. Then in 2010, Telstra contacted us and said, could we possibly do high definition audio on hold for a new product they had called Captivate, which was the first of the internet protocol telephony. We had already developed high definition audio, so that was easy. And they said, well, can you also do video on hold? Because we really, really, really need that for our new product. And so we spent 6 months of sort of hard work on developing that new product. We perfected that, and unfortunately then, of course, the bandwidth issues within Australia weren't resolved. The NBN wasn't even yet born. So we just put the video on hold sort of on ice for a little while within Australia until such time as the NBN started to roll out. Now, video on hold is being used more so in the United States because they don't have the same bandwidth limitations that we do here. So we're doing more of it over there. Here, it's still in abeyance pending the rollout of the NBN. As that gets closer and closer and closer, then a lot of the telcos are starting to look at this. And it's quite an exciting product because apart from anything else, when you know those things you hate most, which is press 1 for this, press 2 for that. Everybody adores those things. We do them, unfortunately. So they're much better if on your screen you can actually see those options. So you don't have to press 142 for this and 143 for this to go back again to listen to them all again. They're displayed in front of you. So press 14 for accounts payable. 1, 4, enter.
And you can see that immediately then?
You can see it
instantaneously. So you're not waiting for 1 to 14 to come through?
Precisely, yeah. So that revolutionises the whole world in our little space. And so that's the first stage of that. That's being rolled out. We developed that technology and we're selling that into the US. But it's slowly, because again, it's high bandwidth usage, and until such time as the whole world sort of catches up, then it's going to have its limitations. But we're ready, we're sitting there, and the Americans in particular are quite excited by that because they've got bandwidth usage and they have a very, very competitive telco market over there. There isn't a dominant player as there is within Australia. So they have to be a lot more nimble than we are. So in the meantime, we looked at this, started to work with the fact that we are the only people that have this dynamic on-hold system suited to this hosted internet protocol telephony, which is the next phase of telephony generally, whereby you don't have a piece of hardware in your office anymore. It's just connected via the internet in through to a data server, and all the technology is held in there. So you never have to worry about an upgrade on it because it's all done. You just pay a monthly fee And it's a heck of a lot cheaper than buying a new phone system and using the old copper line network anyway.
Yeah.
So people are saving that amount of money. And so one of the problems with that particular piece of technology is that the on-hold audio starts from the beginning every time. So you might get answered, and then it'll say, "Thanks for calling ABC Enterprises. We're the greatest thing since sliced bread." Hello, can I help you? Yes, I want to speak to Bob. "Thanks for calling ABC Enterprises. We're the greatest thing since sliced bread." Bob's on the line at the moment, Mark. Can I get him to ring you back? No, I'll hold things. "Thanks for calling ABC Audio." And you can imagine how that's frustrating that is. So we were able to develop, and we're the only people in the world that have been able to develop a solution to that. Simple, deviceless, technical solution. So we went over to the United States last year, I think, and we exhibited at a trade show there. And people came up to us and they were quite excited by that opportunity. So we're now selling into the US, and we got this this contract from, of all places, the first one that actually signed the piece of paper was a company called Faro Telecom, which is in the Faroe Islands, and no idea where the Faroe Islands was. But they are quite nimble, and they're about halfway between Scotland and Iceland. It's 48 tiny little islands, and there's only one telecom company on the whole island, and there's only one on-hold service provider, and that's Captivate. So 100% market share of the Faroe Islands. It's pretty cool. But we're currently dealing with about 4 companies in New York as well, so that's starting to get some credibility going now. So the indications are that's going to be particularly successful for us, as was when we introduced the news and the weather in 2002 to 2010. From 2016 through to 2026, we expect that this will be the next stage of growth for Captivate.
So you're the world's first video on hold product.
To the best of my knowledge, we're the only ones. Certainly according to the leading telcos in the US, there is nobody else that has worked out how to do it. So it sits very similarly, it's a similar platform to the one that we developed in 2002, but tweaked for MP4 audio instead of MP3 audio.
So I call a company on my mobile phone. How does the video on hold part then work?
Okay, so you as a consumer, you call into ABC Enterprise, that hypothetical one we were talking about, and it'll say, and let's say you put it on speakerphone so you can actually see the video, and they'll answer. So, yeah, you want to speak to Bob? Yeah, just hang on a second. Bang, they're going to put you on hold. What are you going to listen to? Normally you'll listen to, hopefully, Captivate on Hold's the greatest thing since sliced bread, or whatever. Yeah. In this case, you're not going to want to sit there and look at a picture of Bob picking his nose or checking his Facebook page while you're waiting to speak to him. So we'll put a promotional video on there for you so that you can actually see what this particular company does whilst you're waiting for Bob.
Or it could be anything. It could be the CNN, it could be ABC News, or whatever.
Whatever the client wants it to be, and we'll always intersperse it with some interesting content. Yeah. Because if we don't have content, nobody's ever going to take any notice of it.
They might not want to have the phone call after watching whatever they're watching on the...
Hopefully, that's our ultimate goal. And we've achieved that a couple of times with the audio ones, where people have asked, put me back on hold. I wanted to hear the end of that particular joke, or whatever it may be. Yeah. So that's our ultimate compliment, really, is that they would rather speak to us than the consumer. So then when you get through to Bob, you get connected to Bob, then you actually see a picture of Bob on his camera, and so you can actually exchange eyeball to eyeball communication.
So it doesn't stop once the on hold's finished.
Well, no, because your video, the phones will be video enabled. Yeah. So all we're doing is we're supplying that little bit between the time that you're actually communicating. Mm-hmm. So why will video take over from audio, from just purely sound of telecommunications? Predominantly because we communicate better with our eyes. Yeah. If I really want to get to know you, I'm going to look in your eyes while I have this conversation. Yeah. If I don't, if I look somewhere else and have this conversation, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's like you're not paying attention to me anymore.
Precisely. Yeah. I don't care about you. You're not important to me. Yeah. So face-to-face, eyeball-to-eyeball communication is vital in terms of business and consumer, in any form of communication. So this will enable communications to be improved. The other part of this new stage of technology for telephony is called unified communications. So you sitting in your office, eventually you'll see the end of the use of your handset on your desk that you pick up with the curly cord. Mm-hmm. You'll make your calls on your desktop,
Yep.
And it'll have a camera in there, most do these days, and a microphone. On your laptop, most of those already have a microphone and a video camera built into them. And then as you move away from your desktop, because you've got an appointment and you're still meeting this conversation, you'll press a key on there and it'll transfer that call through to your mobile phone. So you'll continue that call on your mobile phone, you'll jump into your car, then your car, you can't actually watch the TV while you're doing that, so that will just default back to audio. Then you jump out of your car, it'll come back to your mobile phone. Then you come back into your office again and it comes back onto your laptop or your desktop.
And it just seamlessly keeps going, just like you have your Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth at the moment.
Precisely. So you'll have one phone number, which you'll take with you to Hong Kong, to London, to Singapore, and I will ring your phone number, and you won't know, I won't know, where you happen to be.
How do you see this working then for employees and employer relationships?
Okay, that situation that we spoke about earlier of eye-to-eye contact, there's one bank in the US which uses video not on hold, but video phones within their thing. And they released a paper that basically says that their internal communications are much improved, simply by the fact that in a large organisation, you may never have met the person with whom you're dealing. And so you can actually eyeball them and you become then a much closer affinity. You've also got a lot of companies that outsource, or not outsourcing work, but people are working from home and remote locations generally. So you can actually make sure that they are appropriately dressed, shall we say, and that they're switched on and they have had a shave this week, simply by being able to use video communications. Skype, which is now owned by Microsoft, has developed a product called Skype for Business, and they're sort of moving into this exact same phase of video for communications, because it's better.
So how do you see you getting yourself further into the market? Obviously at the moment when I'm calling up my insurance company or my bank, I'm not getting any video on hold yet. How far away are we looking?
For the likes of the big insurance companies, which will probably be based, their call centre will probably be based in somewhere with a very, very good, strong bandwidth in Sydney or Melbourne or somewhere like that, fine. But your bandwidth, if you're talking on your mobile phone, on a GSM, even a 4G network, it's going to be quite expensive to suck up. Okay. So that's going to take a while before that technology.
So even with 4G, it's not quite.
Even with 4G,
okay.
5G is coming into Asia now. So we will start to see that, but certainly on your in B2B environment, whereby you're sitting at your desk and you've got a good strong bandwidth in your office, talking to a call centre in Sydney that's also got the same thing, that's just about ready to go. But if it's only B2B, so if it's a B to consumer, consumers are using their mobiles and their tablets and things a lot more now than they used to. So that's going to take a while to roll out. Okay. So we're pretty sure that it's only going to relate to the business-to-business market.
Now, Captivate on hold. You're a Perth company with this Perth idea, I'd like to say, being the world's first video on hold product. How did you manage to happen that in Perth? How did you pull that off here?
I think one of the things about being in Perth is that you are so distant from the rest of the world. You have to improve your communications. That's what you get, I think, living in Perth, because we are the poor cousin, shall we say, to the Sydneys and Melbournes, and therefore we have to be able to do it better. I think we do it smarter. Somebody told me the other day that there are more inventions per capita come out of Western Australia than any other state in Australia.
Okay.
So it's
I'm looking out for them all now then.
Yeah, perhaps necessity is the mother of invention.
It certainly is, isn't it? I think that is the key. That's what our survival is going to be on, is necessity. Yeah. Now, okay, you've got an office here in Perth and South Africa. What's the plans for Captivate on hold? Okay,
so I think that we've got one here, we've got one in South Africa, and we've got one in the Maldives. Most people think that that's a bit of a holiday resort. I'm going up to Hong Kong shortly to meet with the world's largest telco there. They have offices all over the world and brands all over the world. So we're expecting now that because the technology's tried, tested, proven, it works, and we've got a proper commercial model now, that we'll start to expand those out there. We've also changed our back-end system. so that because we can't provide voiceovers in Faroe Islandic or wherever, so that we've got a system whereby they can manage the whole thing. They can do their own recordings in their local language, in their local dialect, and upload it.
And update their videos or whatever they want to have themselves. Just like websites, you can update your own website regularly and so forth.
Yeah. So our systems have had to adapt to being able to people to manage their own.
Yeah.
And a lot of our clients are very, very security conscious, and rightly so, that they don't want us, or any stranger, for want of a better word, managing their systems.
So, Mark, what type of clients do you think will best suit for video on hold?
Probably, Courtney, the companies that will use video on hold in the end result will be the large corporate enterprise, government to perhaps a lesser degree. They'll be the end users. From our perspective, our clients really will be the telcos. They're the ones that can go out there and they can record in their own languages, their own dialects, with those pronunciations which quite often you see mistaken between Albany and Albury and etc. So they'll be our clients, will be the telcos, but the end users will be initially the larger corporates and enterprise level solutions. As bandwidth grows across, right across the world, then it'll come down to the medium and then to the smaller businesses. So it's all a matter of bandwidth. So you at home, if you had a strong enough bandwidth, you could easily use video on hold for your own business, just as a SOHO, if you wanted to be so. But it's a matter of doing a cost-benefit analysis, basically.
So as Captivate on hold, or should I say, as video on hold becomes more accessible, we say we have the bandwidth in 5 years' time or 2 years' time, however time it takes in Australia, where does Captivate on hold go? What's your plans?
Okay, so we will continue developing new products. So the video on hold we've got, the content we need to continue working on, so we need to increase our editorial staff in order to be able to do that. We will then look at that next stage of technology. At the moment, we already have a product which we developed for Vodafone in Belgium called the Jukebox, which is, as its name professes, you can actually choose the style of music or the genre of music you want to listen to while you're waiting on hold.
Oh, so is that done with video and audio then? So on the phone you go, okay, oh look, here's Johnny Cash. I want to listen to Johnny Cash.
Precisely,
or I want to listen to
so country
Madonna.
and western, yes, precisely. So if you want to listen to pop music at the moment, if you've just got an audio system, then you can press 2 for pop music and you'll listen to that whilst you're waiting on hold. So you no longer have to put up with that boring, revolting music type of stuff, which is what everybody
is that something that you guys have developed yourself?
Yes, again, the Jukebox on hold we developed as a result of a request from Vodafone in Belgium, where they were finding their callers were complaining about the fact that I didn't like the music that I was forced to listen to while I was on hold. Being on hold is a necessity these days. It hasn't changed. It's still 60 seconds on average per call sits on hold. That hasn't changed for 20 years. So if I'm going to have to sit on hold for 60 seconds, which means that sometimes I'm only on hold for 10 seconds, sometimes I can be on hold for 4 hours in a worst event situation. But we've had it, so it does happen. At least give me something that I want to listen to. I want to listen to...
Let me take ownership of it.
Yeah, exactly right. And that way I'm not going to complain about the music that I hate being on hold because I actually chose it myself.
And in time, we could be watching a TV show, we could be watching news bulletins,
music,
we could be watching
music
whatever
videos.
we want. Yeah.
When I grew up, we used to go and buy a record. And it was, you might remember what records are like. Yeah, precisely. Now, and so you'd judge a singer on their voice and the music. Now you judge them on their physical appearance, their act, and then their voice and their music. So certainly we need to stay ahead of that. So that'll be the next stage of our projected thing.
Yeah, it's actually quite a good comparison. As radios come through, we've had TV, and now the same thing's happening to telephone systems.
Yes, well, some of your audience might remember a song that says "Video killed the radio star."
Yep.
That was going back, I don't know, probably to the 80s or something, right? It hasn't. Video has certainly taken over, but the radio stations are still there and they're still doing well. So these are cumulative technologies.
Yep.
So we see that our on-hold audio thing will still be there, video will add to it, add to it, add to it. And the displayed IVRs, the press 1 for this, 2 for that, will simply be a customer enhancement.
I like that one. So you can just go and go, oh yeah, boom, hit that button, you know what you want to go to.
It costs almost nothing, and the consumer, the caller, is always king.
Yeah.
The consumer's king. So if the customer wants it and it costs nothing, it's a brainless situation not to give it to them because that's what they want. And that's our position, I suppose, is to sit in the shoes, stand in the shoes of the ultimate caller. The caller to the business is the one that we need to look after. If he's happy, then the business will be happy because we're delivering a happier caller simply by entertaining them, informing them, and delivering them happiness.
Well, Mark, I look forward to the next level where Captivate on Hold takes us to and where you guys go to. Thanks for talking.
Pleasure.
All the best.
Courtney. Thank you.
Until next time, speak soon.